This news up to the minute. Earlier this morning, we asked folks in central and southern Florida to give us a call to let us know how things were going there. On the line right now, we have Lisa Grunsner of Miami.
Hello.
Hi, Lisa. What's going on?
Oh my God! It is blowing like crazy. Our trees are like flying away.
Oh boy. Okay, what else is going on? It's going like crazy. Define that for us, if you will.
Well, our lights just went out again over here, so I can't really see much. But the wind just picked up so much, and just trees are going down, and lightning, and tons of rain, and basically the wind is like blowing the trees down. Did
you batten down the hatches in your home?
Yeah.
Cover up the windows. Why didn't you go to one of the evacuation shelters?
Because I'm in Kendall, and we thought we'd be okay over here, but it's really strong over here.
And help us out. Where is Kendall in relation to Miami?
Kendall is, let's see, I just moved here from Nashville, Tennessee, so this is a wonderful first for me, like 2 weeks ago. So here I am. It's like 20 minutes away from the beach.
I see. Welcome to Miami, huh?
Oh yeah, this is a great welcome.
Welcome. Let me ask you, what's the mood down there among people like yourself? I think I know what mood you're in right now, but what about your neighbors?
I'm shaking in my shoes. Everybody left this room to go to the bathroom except for me, because I'm in awe. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Well, you may want to heed their advice and take cover. Lisa Grunsner calling us from Kendall, Florida, just outside of Miami. Thanks for calling us, and good luck to you, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Valerie Preston is in Miami, and she joins us now. Valerie, are you there?
I'm here.
How you doing? Describe the scene for us.
You know that I have never in my life been afraid of anything, and I've lived in Florida most of my life, and I'm petrified at this moment.
Well, that's probably smart. Tell us what's going on.
Well, out in my front yard at the moment, the tree that I told you about earlier, the big black olive tree, is completely uprooted and out of the ground. Just lays flat in my ground right now.
How's your house holding together?
Well, the thing on my roof, you know, the turbine thing that lets all the heat out of the attic, it flew off. The trees in my backyard, the branches are going down to the ground. My glass sliding doors in my kitchen are vibrating, and wind is coming through there like crazy.
Now, have you boarded up the windows?
Almost everything, except for the back of my house.
And you and your family are inside the house. What part of the house are you in? Are you holding up in any particular room?
At the moment, my daughter and I are in the living room, and my son's in his bedroom, but things are getting scary. I mean, pretty scary.
All right. Well, you take care, and thanks for talking with us.
Thank you very much.
Jane Kapler is in Fort Myers, Florida. Good morning, Jane. Hi, Jane, you there?
Yes, I am. I'm in Fort Myers. We're parallel with West Palm Beach on the Gulf Coast.
Tell us what's going on.
Well, we're getting ready for it. We're supposed to get the northeast section of it, which includes the tornadoes.
You been through this before?
Yes, I have. I'm a native Floridian, born on the East Coast, and went through about 12 or 15 of them over there, and I highly respect them.
How does this fare compared to those that you've been through before?
I remember when I was very young, we were flooded, and I remember oak trees turned completely upside down in their original holes. So, you know, I'm more afraid of the trees being, you know, coming on the roof and things like that. But I have dogs, and you're not allowed to take dogs to a shelter, and I refuse to leave my dogs. I live in rural Lee County, and I'm more concerned about the aftermath because we do have a lot of snakes in this area, and they do come out with a, you know, flood.
Interesting point that she brings up. Thanks for calling, ma'am.
Okay, great.
Good luck to you. Interesting point she brings up. One of the folks of the survivors of Hurricane Hugo want to pass on to the people down in South Florida is things you need to watch out for: looters and snakes. Ugh. Snakes very high on the list. We want to go to Chris Borium in Cocoa Beach. Hello, Chris.
Yes.
Tell us what's going on.
Well, right now we're not getting a lot of the stuff that they're getting down south, but we are getting very large wind gusts at the time. We were getting them about 20, 30 miles an hour before, but the gusts seem to be getting up to about 50, 60 miles an hour now. I was walking down on the beach before to see what was going on, and the tidal seems to have gone up to just about where the dunes are, and things are just going crazy around here. We're getting rain for like 5 minutes at a time, and the clouds are passing over, and then it's like clear all of a sudden.
Huh. Chris, tell us, what types of things did you do to prepare for the onslaught of Hurricane Andrew?
Well, when it first started out, it was heading right at us, so we were like all getting ready. We got the windows all taped up and everything like that, just we were ready to take off at a moment's notice. They didn't know what direction it was heading, and they kept putting us on standby. We'll tell you if we're going to evacuate, and that's all we heard. And then all of a sudden it headed straight west, and things just sort of like got calm around here.
It's 5:12 a.m. on Monday morning, and folks across the country now are watching this. If you will, just kind of tell us, what's it like to sit in your home knowing that this incredible weather is on the horizon?
It's terrifying. I'm from New Jersey, and I've been on the outskirts of a couple of them, Gloria, which passed up there about 4 years ago. But to have one that actually had an opportunity to hit us head on, it was real scary. That's all that anyone was talking about.
I can imagine. Chris Boreum, thanks for calling us this morning, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Bud Benedict is in Fort Myers, and he's on the phone right now. Bud, are you there?
Yes.
Tell us what's happening up in your neck of the woods.
Well, I guess fortunately we don't have as much excitement to report as Miami does right now, but we're starting to get a little bit of the rain, and the wind's starting to pick up. I think right now we're kind of in the calm before the storm.
Now, you made preparations for the storm to your home?
Didn't do too much to my home, but I'm in the aviation business, and we had quite a bit to do there, securing all the aircraft and hangars, and many people, private aircraft owners, flew the planes out, and as well as, of course, all the commercial airlines and freight carriers.
All right, Bud Benedict, thanks for joining us. Take care.
Okay, bye.
We talked about the evacuations earlier, and we just want to point out again that some people have called us up and said that they cannot find a hotel room anywhere in Orlando, which we've pointed out several times throughout the course of the morning, which has the largest cluster of hotel rooms in the country. All the hotel rooms are booked. Yeah, not anymore. And one person called us up and told us he can look outside of his window, and some of his residents and neighbors in Orlando are offering rooms in their house for $100. So quite a business going on there in Florida, and quite a morning to tell you about. We'll be back after a break.
This is CBS News, up to the minute. Stay with us.
And we continue our coverage of Hurricane Andrew. The National Hurricane Center, of course, is in Coral Gables, Florida, but there is a backup hurricane center up in Camp Springs, Maryland, and CNN's Jamie McIntyre is there. Jamie.
Yes, we're here at the National Meteorological Center in Camp Springs, which is just outside Washington, D.C. It is the standby operations center in the event that the Coral Gables location was put out of commission by the hurricane. Everyone here is ready, willing, and able to take over in that event. So far, that has not had to take place, though. With me is Jerry Gerald, who's the deputy director, who just flew up from Florida last night in order to be here to man the center in case of that eventuality. You have access to the same satellite pictures information here, so give us a quick update on what the status of Hurricane Andrew is right now.
Okay, Andrew came ashore at Homestead, Florida, which is just south of Miami, at about 5 a.m. And the winds appear to be around 140 miles per hour. And it continues to move westward into the interior of Florida.
Is that pretty much what you anticipated?
I think that's pretty much what we had been forecasting for the last couple of days, except it's a little faster. We really expected it more like 7 or 8 a.m.
Now, what would have had to happen for the communications and everything to be shifted up here to this location outside Washington, and what didn't happen?
Well, it still may happen. They're taking the brunt of it right now. What we were most afraid of is that they would lose communications, so that the telephone people could not maintain communications. So far they have. That's tenuous, but as long as they can keep going there, we would prefer to have the operation there.
But if the communications were to be shut down there, you wouldn't miss a beat picking it up.
That's right.
Here.
We'd pick it right up, and in fact, we're upstairs creating the advisories right now, so that if their advisories don't show up, then we'll issue ours.
Okay, we'll keep you informed from here. We're at the National Meteorological Center in Camp Springs, Maryland, just outside Washington. Jamie McIntyre reporting live.
Thank you, Jamie. About 1 million Florida residents, as we said, are spending this morning away from their homes. A state of emergency declaration issued yesterday by Florida's governor cleared the way for evacuations in Broward, Dade, and Monroe counties. 180 shelters in 17 Florida counties are set up to receive evacuees. In Broward County, home to Fort Lauderdale, special shelters have been set up for the handicapped. And personnel are said to be antsy, waiting for the storm's aftermath. Meanwhile, in Dade County, where Miami is, many shelters were full by mid-evening yesterday. Hotels are full as far north as Orlando and Disney. People say that they're just trying to make the best of this time away from home.
Well, I had trouble with my first. He was born early, so I thought it was more appropriate I'd come here in case anything happened. I'd be in a proper facility to take care of it.
The doctor told us to come. Dr. Lang told us to come here because if she actually has the baby, then I can't get to the hospital.
Do you feel more comfortable being here then?
Yes, yeah.
We were going to go to a hotel. We were going to move up north and go to a hotel, but we decided to come here.
Have you named the baby?
Yes, Stephanie Andrea.
Where's the Andrea come from?
The storm.
Did you ever think, is this your first child?
It's my second.
Did you ever think you'd ever?
No, I never thought of this situation.
And here you are, the storm's about ready to hit.
Yes, I can feel it.
Does it worry you?
That's kind of exciting. It's kind of a mess, but you just have to deal with it.
And one interesting note, a hospital in Pompano Beach now has 300 pregnant patients. Yesterday, officials advised pregnant women in their third trimester to go to hospitals. Doctors were afraid storm conditions would make it difficult, if not impossible, for women to get to a hospital today. Well, most people in South Florida have heeded the official warning, evacuated their homes, have left the area. CNN's Bonnie Anderson reports on some folks who intend to stay their ground.
Marie Southern and her daughter Tori Carruthers say they're ready for Andrew and they're serious about staying in their North Miami Beach home. When they refused to evacuate earlier today, police wrote down phone numbers for their next of kin.
That way we have a supply of water.
Still, the mother-daughter team says with 5 pets to take care of, they believe they've made the right decision.
The foundations, I think, is secure. We have all our supplies. If there's a wind that blows out, we're prepared for it. And it's just my daughter and I, and we just made a decision with the animals, being that it would be harder to uproot them and all, that we would rough it out.
Do you have a room in particular that you're going to huddle in?
Yeah, basically would be the bathroom because it's a smaller area.
A few houses away, Johnny Bernard and his wife Denise were comforted by the fact their home survived Florida's biggest hurricane in 1935.
So the wife and I said, to hell, we'll stay here. So we took our bed, we took the mirror down, we took and put our box springs on top of our dresser. Then we took the plywood, put on the top of the box springs, then the mattress over top of that, and her and I and our dogs will get under that. We've got all kinds of water. We've got water here this water here we can drink, and we've got other water that we can drink, and these other 12 gallons here, well, dang near 15 gallons here, we use to flush the commode and what have you.
Still, Denise Bernard admits she is terrified.
Scared to death. I don't do well in a thunderstorm, and they're talking hurricane, so it's got me a little upset, but there's not a whole lot you can do about it. You know, we're here, and God willing, we'll get through it all right.
Hurricane experts aren't so sure, and while many people along the beach did evacuate, they fear far too many others chose to tough it out. Many of the people who are staying behind despite repeated warnings say city officials and hurricane forecasters have been wrong before. This time, they just might be betting their lives on it. Bonnie Anderson, CNN, North Miami Beach.
When CNN's coverage of Hurricane Andrew continues, we'll join Valerie Voss, and she'll give us a pinpoint look at exactly where Andrew is.
Welcome back, everybody. We'll check the morning headlines now. Winds are sustained at 115 miles per hour in parts of South Florida as the eye of Hurricane Andrew passes over the southeast Florida coastline. The storm pounded the Bahamas already, with 150 miles an hour winds, kicking up fierce waves and sending Bahamians to shelter. 4 people are reported dead there. Locally, it seems South Floridians have headed north. Shelters are filling up across Central Florida. The shelter at Dr. Phillips High is reportedly near capacity this morning. And we have this note to pass along now. Base officials at Patrick Air Force Base have determined that an evacuation of that base is not necessary. But in the interest of safety, all non-essential personnel at Patrick and Cape Canaveral Air Force Station need not report to work before noon Monday. Officials wanted to keep employees off the roads during heavy thunderstorms, but Patrick, however, will act as a shelter for retired and military personnel if you feel the need to head for a safer place. If you're going to work, though, you don't have to be there till noon today.
Jim Clark in once again with an update. It seems like it's got these big fluctuations between sustained and gusting winds that seem to be even more threatening to areas that maybe don't seem like it's going to be that bad. Yeah, when you say sustained winds of 140 miles an hour, which is what they're calling right around the eye center, that you can get gusts over that, as the 164 mile per hour gust at the Hurricane Center indicates. And it looks like we are going to see extensive damage in the Miami area when all of this clears. Now, on our radar here from Daytona Beach, you can just see the northern edge of that storm south of Vero Beach. But we are getting some related showers coming in up around Daytona Beach and also just south of Melbourne. Some showers are coming in off the Atlantic Ocean. We'll probably see this area of rain increase during the morning hours. And with the showers, we do get some gusty winds of up to about 30 miles per hour. So don't worry, that's not the hurricane. That's just the effects of the storm having on our weather. It's not something that's going to hopefully cause any damage around Central Florida. The storm way down here, there's the eye right there, 25.4 north, 80.3 west is the center of the storm. That was about 45 minutes ago. Right now, you were talking about Patrick Air Force Base, Claire. Right now, Homestead Air Force Base, I think the eye is over that at the present time. So that is an Air Force base that is getting the brunt of it. Moving west at 18 miles per hour. Sustained winds, maximum sustained winds at 140 miles per hour, and the barometric pressure continues to drop down to around 27.50 inches. Now, the storm itself has gone through some fluctuations, and you can see right here yesterday it was pretty big, but during the evening hours it sort of contracted. Now it's expanding again as it goes through this bursting pattern of decreasing a little bit then increasing. Fortunately, it didn't have a chance to increase too much before the eye made landfall. Otherwise, the storm would have been even stronger. It will continue to move to the west, and then eventually it's going to be curving up towards the northwest and possibly along the central Gulf Coast, Louisiana perhaps. Could be see the brunt of the storm in about 48 hours. So, and it could regenerate some of its strength. Here you can see a radar image showing the rain bands and where the eye came ashore, right in the mouth of Biscayne Bay. At 5:01 high tide, that's the same time the storm with those strong winds wrapping around the eye pushed, I'm sure, just a tremendous amount of water into Biscayne Bay all along the coast in Broward County. I'm sure there is a lot of flooding. And the wind and the rain continue and will continue for the next several hours around this storm. Now, we do have the advisories out for the hurricane watch, and it looks like those are going to be continuing from Venice around to Vero Beach for the next few hours. And as the storm moves across that area, also Lake Okeechobee is under a hurricane warning this morning. And we have a tornado watch area from Orlando southward, actually Osceola and Brevard counties southward, until 11 o'clock this morning, because hurricanes do produce tornadoes. Most of them, if they do develop, should be down generally south of the lake, but we could see a few closer to our area. Whew. Fortunately for us, this went far enough to the south. Our own weather is not going to be all that bad today. It's not going to be dangerous across most of our area. It'll be a little breezy, winds out of the east to southeast, and with some of the showers, we could see a gust of 30 miles per hour. The high near 88 degrees. The rain chance around 50, 60% further to the south. It's closer to 80% in southern Osceola and Brevard counties.
Okay, we'll check in with you throughout the morning. Thanks, Jim.
All right. Certainly bad weather means bad roads. Roads across the state are making for slippery travel, and understandably, traffic to the south is moving mighty slow.
With lots of folks heading north, let's get the latest right now from Alan Edwards at Metro Traffic. Alan?
Good morning, Claire. Just talked to Miami, and things are really wild down there, as we know, but traffic is very calm. Nobody out on the roads there, but we are starting to see a buildup from the west coast that is being evacuated at this point. Northbound 75 through Fort Myers and Sarasota, very, very heavy. Now, some of the alternate routes that we'll be watching for you all morning long are Route 17 and Route 41. You're going to find that those are going to start prepared to build momentarily, as well as westbound I-4. We'll keep you informed all morning long. Reporting live, I'm Alan Edwards, Metro Traffic Control for 2 News Sunrise.
Obviously, we are going to be home to lots of folks as they evacuate the south and the west. Everyone's coming this way, so Orlando's going to be one hopping town.
Big test of how everybody handles it and getting, I guess, close to your neighbors, as it were.
Yeah.
Coming up in sports, the Atlanta Falcons check out their new nest. Buddy Pittman is up next with the details.
But he didn't run on. And breaking news.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Marshall from the CNN Center in Atlanta.
And I'm Ralph Wengate.
We're keeping an eye this morning on Hurricane Andrew, and John Zarella is joining us now from Miami. He's been riding out the storm through much of the night. And John, what's the situation there now?
Kathy, well, I can tell you with all of our other CNN personnel here in Miami, we're on the 3rd floor of our office building. Some people in the stairwell, some people here in the hallway. Let me fill you in on a few of the details. We understand that at least 400,000 people, by listening to local radio, are without power in the Dade County area. The storm, as I'm sure you're well aware, the eye is inland now. We can hear the wind just roaring outside here, and we are literally 30 miles north of where the center of this storm hit, 20, 25, 30 miles. The edge of the eye, the northern edge of the eye, passed over roughly the National Hurricane Center, apparently blew off this giant radar dome at the National Hurricane Center. The winds there are literally rocking the building, and they too are north of the core of this hurricane. I would imagine that once everyone can get out sometime late today and put all of this in perspective, we are talking about damage that the like has never before been seen, certainly in a major metropolitan area in the United States. The damage could very easily be devastating. Wind gusts at the National Hurricane Center, one report gusting to 160 miles an hour, another report of at least 140 or 152, sustained winds of 138 recorded at the National Hurricane Center. And again, reminding all of our viewers and around out there that that part of the Hurricane Center was at the northern part of the core of the eye, so there could be even more significant damage. We understand that much of the eye passed over the Turkey Point nuclear power plant, but that plant was shut down. It was shut down yesterday, along with the St. Lucie power plant to the north. At this point, we're still riding it out. We will not get the eye here, obviously. It has already passed us and never came over us because we were a little bit far north, but we're on the north side of the storm, which is historically the worst side of a hurricane. We are hearing again reports of shutters, of people who had even boarded up, of the boards being ripped off their windows, of their roofs literally coming apart, of exposed, once the shutters came off, and their windows blowing out. All of this down in an area called the Kendall area, the Perrine area of South Dade County, around what we would call the 250th Street area southwest. So the damage is likely to be extensive, perhaps even catastrophic. There's no telling what the damage is along the coastline or what the storm surge was. Certainly, as the eye passed over the southern part of Biscayne Bay and just pushed all of that immense amount of water in with it, the damage could just be beyond belief. We hope for the best, but I can tell you right now that the wind, even here where we are, which is, as I say, 30-odd miles north of where the worst of it was, is just an unbelievable sound, a roaring, just a constant, like that freight train that everybody talks about in a tornado, except that usually goes by very, very quickly. We're talking about having been under the gun here now since about 4 a.m. Eastern Time, and we expect that we'll be under the gun for at least another hour before we'll be able to even attempt to get out and survey any kind of damage. And even at that point, the winds will be still gusting, I'm sure, at least near hurricane force. But I guess the storm is moving fairly rapidly inland now and is still moving westward, just trudging along methodically westward. Not a whole lot that I can add other than we have lost one vehicle out there somewhere. People are all safe. All CNN employees are safe. We did have at least one windshield blowout on one vehicle. I'm sure a lot more may be blown out by the time we can get out and survey the damage to our vehicles. We believe a lot of windows in this building have blown out. And again, to reiterate, we're not in the worst part of the hurricane. There are certainly strong feeder bands as the south side of the storm moves over us that will be in this area and in the Broward County area. Those people in the Broward County area are still under the gun as well, as is all of southern Florida, Dade, Broward, the northern part of Monroe County. So it is a extremely serious situation here. Again, about 400,000 people we hear have lost power. The numbers could be higher than that. We hear stories of the roofs blowing, at least parts of roofs being lifted, perhaps some of them blowing off, windows blowing in, storm shutters and boards that were put up to protect windows blowing off, tree trunks going down streets, not tree branches, but the trunks of trees going down the streets. So the situation outside at this particular point in South Florida is critical, and we should be able to get a better idea in an hour or so of just how bad things are, at least in our little corner of the neck of the woods here. And Kathy, I don't know what else to add. If there's anything you'd like me to add to it, anything I might just not be thinking of, a question you might have.
John, I wanted to note that the pictures we're looking at throughout your report here were obviously shot earlier when conditions were much calmer. We see a car on the road where the pictures were actually taken from. We just want to note that obviously that car is still not out there. The CNN crews, you say, have secured themselves and are safe at this point?
That's correct. We're all here in the stairwell or in this third floor hallway, and everyone with CNN is safe. And at this point, no, it's just too soon to know about any other injuries that there might be from the storm, from residents of this particular of South Florida, of the many hundreds of thousands of millions of people that live down in this neck of the woods. Kath?
John, thank you, and we'll certainly be checking back with you throughout the morning. John Zarella reporting live from Miami. Ralph?
Well, of course, John's description and the pictures they provided give us a vivid idea of just what it's like down there right now. Another perspective comes to us from our senior meteorologist here at CNN, Valerie Voss. Valerie?
Ralph, of course, John mentioning that the brunt of the storm passing to the south of downtown Miami, making landfall right around Homestead, Florida. We should remind you that the eye of this system is about 20 miles wide, and if you think it's moved past you and you're going to be in the clear, do remember that the whole system is moving westward at about 18 miles an hour, so you'll get an hour of calm if you live in this 20-mile range south of downtown Miami that saw the worst of the storm, and then you're going to see some more as the back end of that eye wall moves across. Of course, the storm surge high north and also down across the south. The system has been moving very, very consistently westward at 17 or 18 miles an hour. The winds have been at 140 miles an hour, sustained with higher gusts at the National Hurricane Center. Just a short while ago, they reported wind gusts of 164 miles an hour. Miami International Airport reporting wind gusts of about 92 miles an hour. And we should mention that in Homestead, Florida, they have closed the Weather Service office, so we do not know what they would have reported. But, of course, an intense system. The storm surge the problem, and it is only now happening along the East Coast, where we were expecting as much as 7 to 14-foot waves. And, of course, the landfall occurred right at high tide, about 5:01 a.m. local time, which only adds a foot or two to the storm surge along the East Coast. But then as the system moves along through southern Florida and gets over to the West Coast, in the counterclockwise circulation, we're going to have another storm surge back on the south side of the storm with those westerly winds. They too could be anywhere between 10, 7, and 14 feet, perhaps as high as 18 in some areas. We'll continue to monitor the system as it moves eastward. As you can see, the eye making that nice westerly track after it gets into the Gulf of Mexico could re-intensify, and it is too soon to say where it will go. We will keep reporting on the system throughout the morning. Right now, we go back to Ralph Wenge.
Thank you, Valerie. The experts who are keeping the eye on this storm and have been all through the night and yesterday are at the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida. Bob Sheets is the director of the Hurricane Center, and he joins us now on the phone. Bob, I understand you are getting the brunt of this storm right now. Is that correct?
That's correct. The eye passed inland right over Homestead here. It's centered over Homestead right now, and so we got the north eye wall, and we actually recorded, as Valerie indicated, we recorded a gust there at about 168. We had several times it was up above 140. I suspect that our sustained wind would be somewhere around 120 or so on the roof of our building.
Bob, we know that when a hurricane hits land, it tends to lessen in intensity. However, the Florida Peninsula is so narrow, I wouldn't expect it to lessen that much as it crosses South Florida. Is that correct?
That's correct. And also the hurricane is moving across the extreme southern tip, which is very narrow, of Florida, and it's also much of the Everglades, which is also wet. So I don't expect much of a diminishment in the strength of this storm. Maybe drop down one category as it moves across the peninsula.
Can you give us any indication yet of what's happening at the Keys?
Well, I think the worst case is right here. We were experiencing that. Our building shook pretty good. Right now it looks like that we're going to be okay because it's now starting to diminish. We did lose something that came on the roof, and I don't know if it was our radome or not, but it shook the building pretty good when it hit.
All right, Bob.
And, so this is the worst part of the area. Certainly there's going to be significant damage across here in this area.
We'll keep in touch, Bob. Thank you very much. Okay. Bob Sheets is the director of the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida. Kathy?
Our coverage of Hurricane Andrew as it makes its way across South Florida will continue right after this.
It is a powerful storm, Andrew. Probably the most powerful storm to hit the United States in decades, and it roared into southeast Florida at high tide at about a half an hour ago. Andrew came ashore at Homestead, Florida, just south of Miami. Now beating up on Miami, Coral Gables, and other cities in the area with one wind gust reaching 163 miles an hour. This is a Category 4 hurricane. That means it could produce maximum sustained winds of 155 miles an hour and bring ashore a surge of water several feet high. Some structural damage to buildings in the Miami area is reported now, and many neighborhoods have lost their electricity. Florida Governor Lawton Chiles has declared a state of emergency. He ordered mandatory evacuations. He put National Guard battalions on alert. A mass evacuation from barrier islands, high-rise condominiums, and low-lying coastal neighborhoods was launched to move an estimated 1 million residents out of the more dangerous areas. The evacuation area includes Dade, Broward, and Monroe counties. Now, in Fort Lauderdale, the Red Cross issued an urgent plea for bread and water, saying a trickle of evacuees reported to shelters was turning into a flood, and there was no food at all. Shelters elsewhere are also overflowing, and some residents have been bused farther inland. About 200 shelters have been established in about 24 Florida counties. So far, no major problems have been reported at any of these shelters. En route to Florida, Hurricane Andrew hit the Bahamas with huge waves and winds of 120 miles an hour. A government press spokesman of the Bahamians received reports of 4 deaths, but only one has been confirmed so far. The outlying eastern islands took the brunt of the hurricane, and no major damage has been reported in Nassau.
Residents living in South Florida have certainly heard the tales as they were growing up, dealing with the hurricane. And now the resident Christine Davidson is dealing with that tale tonight. And she joins us now from Coral Gables, Florida. And Christine, let's begin with where you're located.
I'm really just on the edge of Coral Gables. I'm in unincorporated Dade, which is just south of South Miami.
And how close are you to the beach area?
I'm probably anywhere from like 5 to 10 miles, depending on which way you're driving.
A surprising calm in your voice this morning. Can you explain why you're remaining so calm at this point?
Well, I'm in the hallway. I'm in a concrete blockhouse, so I feel comfortable with that, but I didn't plywood my window, so I am concerned about that.
Are you hearing anything right now?
Well, right now there's driving wind and rain, and I have an avocado tree in my backyard, and the tree is just banging against the window continually. So it's kind kind of scary.
Christine, did you give any thought to evacuating, completely moving out of that area?
Well, I'm actually not in an evacuation area. Those people who live east of US 1 were all supposed to evacuate in my area, but I live west. I just live west of US 1.
And how long are you prepared to hold down there in that position?
Well, I guess the storm's supposed to be over in another 8 hours or so. I think it's going to be hard to maintain without electricity, without air conditioning, without refrigeration, but as long as it takes.
Obviously not planning on going to work today at the University of Miami.
You know, I have meetings today, so I'm not sure what's going to happen.
What is it that you do, Christine?
I'm a professor at the University of Miami, and I used to work at CNN.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, do you have any company there with you as you wait out the storm?
You know, my Brittany Spaniel is with me, Tigger, and he is doing surprisingly well during this rainstorm.
What sort of advice do they have in dealing with pets?
Actually, most people who go to the evacuation places are not allowed to bring their animals, and so that's, I think, people who have pets, want to stay home many times with them to help them also get through the storm. But you just try to keep them calm and have plenty of water for them as well.
Christine, you mentioned you were a little concerned about the security of your home. What precautions did you take and what didn't you do before you?
Well, everyone was advised to move anything, patio furniture, that type of stuff. I moved all the patio furniture in. I moved concrete blocks in, anything that would happen to be caught up in the wind because of the great force of the wind. And I put towels along all the windowsills. One of my neighbors told me to do that. And just bolted everything up and put your car in the garage and followed all the procedures that were advised.
All right, Christine, thank you, and may your morning remain as calm as it is now. Ralph?
Thank you very much. I think once again we should remind you that the pictures you have been seeing obviously were taken a lot earlier, before the full brunt of the winds of Hurricane Andrew. Those are the only pictures we have right now, and we'll be getting more in a little bit later. And we'll continue our special coverage of Hurricane Andrew right after this. Just about 10 minutes for the hour right now as we continue to track Hurricane Andrew. Of course, as you can well imagine, some of the shelters in South Florida absolutely filled with residents who fled the wrath of the storm. It's ripping the area right now with top sustained winds of 140 miles an hour. Power is out. Reports obviously are sketchy, but CNN reporters in Miami believe the damage there is extensive. The eye of the hurricane came ashore at Homestead. That's just south of Miami. It hit about 5 o'clock Eastern. The National Hurricane Center at Coral Gables is one facility where damage has already been reported. Kathy?
One of the questions on many folks' minds at this point is, when will Andrew actually fizzle out and be no longer a threat? Our senior meteorologist Valerie Voss is standing by with more on that. Val, what do you think?
Well, Kathy, it's going to be hours yet. We're watching our latest about 4-hour loop of the radar images, and you see that the system is now just about completely, the eye of the storm is just about completely over Dade County, just to the west of Homestead at this time, about 25 miles southwest of Miami. The center of the storm, the eye, which is about 20 miles wide, did pass about 25 miles south of Miami. The wind gusts, however, have been reported to be 115 miles an hour at the Miami airport, up to 168 miles per hour at the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida. The system has been very consistent, tracking westward over the last many hours, and it's looking like it will continue to do so. If over the last couple of half-hour periods here it seems that the hurricane has weakened, we suspect that it's because there's a radar that is not operating in the Miami area, consequently not seeing some of these most intense rain bands, and that's why it's looking just a little weaker, the sight coming from a little bit farther away. On the satellite image, the system looks smaller, but it's a much wider view. As it moves across southern Florida on its westward track, of course, it will move back out into the Gulf of Mexico, and if it loses any intensity at all, it could re-intensify over the Gulf of Mexico, which is down the road away. We look at the area of impact, as you can see, from Fort Lauderdale southward through Miami, all the way down through the Coral Gables area to Homestead, which is the center through which that passed. And we'll keep updating you. Right now, we go back to Ralph Wingy.
Thank you, Valerie. Coordinating all of this storm effort, coordinating the evacuations, making sure that everybody's where they should be and safe is a mammoth job. In Broward County, with the Emergency Services Unit, is Arthur St. Amant. He joins us now on the phone. Arthur, what's it like there now?
Well, what we're
we're seeing here, fortunately for the people in Broward, I think, is the upper fringe of that storm that's passing in the Dade County area. What we've seen here from reports from amateur people out in the field is mostly power outages, lines down, those kinds of things. A few trees down, we have some sand on the beach, and so far it looks like we're doing pretty well here in the county as far as this storm is concerned. I think we're very fortunate in the Broward County area.
Do you expect it to get worse in your area?
No, I don't think so. If it remains on its southern track there, we're obviously on the fringe of that band of storm, the hurricane force winds around the eye, as well as the gale force winds extending out. I think what we're seeing here is the gale force level winds rather than the hurricane force.
Did most of the people who were warned to get out of the area do so?
I think so. I think a large portion of the people chose the option of moving to a friend or relative's home inland rather than the shelter. We had about 20-some thousand people in the shelter, considering we had 433,000 people in the vulnerability zone. I'm sure there's people in that zone still, but by and large, I think a great number did, from what I get reports of, that rather than shelter, they went to an inland area.
We're hearing that a lot of these shelters are absolutely filled, and we're also hearing some reports that there isn't enough food.
Well, I think those may be factual, and we're trying as best we can with the conditions to get out there. I don't think we're going to have anybody starve to death, but certainly our intent is to get food supplies to them as quickly as possible.
Do you have any idea yet of the damage in your area? Have you been able to get out, or has anybody?
No, we've had some people out in the storm looking around, and what we see is a lot of trees, wires, those kinds of things, which I would consider fortunate for us rather than the more severe effects of a very high hurricane force wind.
Okay, thank you very much. Arthur St. Amand is with the Broward County Emergency Services, and we'll continue our coverage right after this. Keeping very busy this morning, helping us with a perspective of what this storm is doing is senior meteorologist Valerie Voss.
I'm sure some residents there are anxious to get out and check the damage to their homes, their property. Valerie has some idea on when that might happen. Val?
Yeah, Kathy, too soon yet. As we watch the last 4 hours, the eye moves on shore. Dade County, almost completely over Dade County now. But folks, if you're in that Homestead area, it's just to the west now. Please note that there's still the backside of this hurricane to contend with. Still maintaining good intensity. Winds reported up to 168 miles an hour at the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, 115 miles per hour in Miami, and there is going to be a storm surge anywhere from several feet up to 10 or even 12 or 14 across not only the southeast coast but the southwest coast of Florida as well. Precipitation totals will be heavy. We're looking for 6 inches. The system moving rapidly across South Florida. Could be a little more than that, though, if it does slow down. Once it moves into the Gulf of Mexico, could maintain its intensity or even intensify even more. We will continue to watch it for you throughout the morning hours. Right now, we go back to Ralph Winge and Kathy Marshall.
Yeah, we'll not only continue to watch the storm, we'll also be able to perhaps get a better idea a little bit later of just how much damage was sustained in that area. I'm Ralph Winge.
I'm Kathy Marshall. Daybreak will continue right after this.
This is CNN. This is CNN Breaking News.
Good morning. We are continuing to cover the movement of Hurricane Andrew. I'm Ralph Winge.
And I'm Kathy Marshall. The latest reports from the National Hurricane Center are putting winds from Hurricane Andrew at more than 160 miles per hour. John Zarella has been riding out the storm through much of the night. He was outdoors for many hours, but has now moved to a safe spot inside. John?
Kathy, we are in the CNN offices, which are on Biscayne Boulevard, just to the west of the evacuation zone. And we are down in our offices again for the last couple of hours. We've been upstairs on the 3rd floor, in a 3rd floor stairwell, and in the hallway of the 3rd floor. We came downstairs. Our offices are still secure. We didn't lose any windows here, but an office down the hall from us, the windows are all blown out. We tried to get outside, but the pressure was just too intense, the wind, and it was impossible to try and get through the glass doors that lead to the outside here to take a better look. We're going to give it a little while longer before we actually venture out. Some of the things for your viewers just joining us, what we have heard are that in the Kendall area, which is about 30 miles south of us, the Kendall-Perrine area is where the direct hit from this storm was. The eye passing over, even passing over the Turkey Point nuclear plant, which is down around Homestead. That plant was shut down, though. Just let everybody know that nuclear plant was shut down yesterday. We are hearing reports of even the storm shutters, the plywood that people had put on their windows down in that neck of South Dade County being torn off their homes and their windows blowing out. Even some reports of partial roof loss to some homes. We understand that the National Hurricane Center lost the giant radar dome which sits on top of the Hurricane Center. We have dishes on that Hurricane Center as well. I'm sure they're gone as well as some dishes we have on the roof of our building. But no, we are hearing reports of at least 400,000 people without power. We are on battery power now here, just a couple of lights lit in this office building and in the hallways. The generators, we believe, have also kicked off now. There's no more generator power. So as you can imagine, it's getting quite uncomfortable, quite stuffy. The wind just howling again outside, certainly still up around 100 miles an hour or plus outside. But everyone is safe. And as far as any injuries from this storm, or perhaps worse, in the metropolitan Miami area, the Dade County area, the Broward County area, we have not heard any reports. We've been listening to a local radio station broadcast throughout these early morning hours, and they are hearing basically just that some of these damage reports, things like the trunks of trees going down the street, but that's fortunately all we're hearing. We're not hearing any reports of any injuries at this point, but we are looking at a storm that is likely to have left major, perhaps catastrophic damage, the like that has never been seen in the continental United States in a metropolitan area in recorded history. There had been estimates that a storm with the magnitude of a Hugo, had they put it over Miami, there were progs that the Hurricane Center did, computer modeling, that said that the damage estimates could be $10 billion. This storm is a little more tightly wound than Hugo. In other words, it's smaller. It's not as massive and wide as Hugo, but the wind speeds were in excess of what Hugo's wind speeds were. So the question is, how much damage, catastrophic or just devastating? What's the difference? We're looking at a massive, massive cleanup that may take, certainly may take weeks here in South Florida. Kathy?
And John, certainly residents waiting to find out what that damage will be. John Zarella reporting to us live from Miami. Ralph?
Boca Raton is north of Miami, and Gary Tuckman is there. About an hour ago, Gary was outside. We saw live pictures of Gary. It was unbelievable. The shots looked like he was barely able to stand up through the storm. Well, Gary is no longer outside. He joins us now by phone. Gary?
Well, actually, Ralph, we don't have a video signal outside, but we're still standing outside. We're outside our truck that we have here in Boca Raton, and we've been here now for 7 hours. When we first got here, it wasn't raining. The wind was calm. Right now, in the last half an hour, it's taken a drastic turn for the worse. Right after the eye passed over Dade County, Florida, we started feeling it more here, too. Just about 10 minutes ago, the power went out. We were marveling at the fact that for hours, the power was still on, despite the 70, 75-mile-an-hour winds. Now they're estimating the winds here in Boca Raton, which is about 30 to 40 miles north of Miami, at 100 miles per hour. Now, if you take a step too far outside this truck, you physically can't walk. John Zarella was just talking about the pressure, and that's what happens. If you go inside a car, you can't open the door, so we're leaving our door open a little bit here so we can step outside to see what's going on. But the power just went out, and about a minute after the power went out, a light pole that's about 30 feet away from us came crashing to the ground. We have several cars parked in the parking lot here, and we're keeping them about 15 feet apart from each other. We're afraid that some of the smaller cars may tip over. That's how bad it is right now. We have power lines that are down in the neighborhood here in Boca Raton causing some sparks. As John was saying before, it's very hard to tell if anyone's been hurt and how much damage there's been. Police are trying to get around as best they can to find out what's going on to help people, but reports right now are very sketchy. One of the things that the local police here in Palm Beach County, Florida were very concerned about was a lot of people did not evacuate the area. When they heard the eye of the hurricane was going to pass over Dade County, they figured, well, Palm Beach County, which is 2 counties away, there's Broward in between, may not be hit or may not be hit hard. And at 11 o'clock, when it was still relatively calm out, it gave people cause to believe that. But it has come in a fury, and now here at 6 in the morning Eastern time, the wind is about 100 miles per hour in Boca Raton, and it is a very dangerous situation right now. The people who haven't evacuated are stuck here and some of them are in high-rise condos. Most of the people in the condominium near where we are right now have gone down to a lobby into a safe room, but it certainly is not a safe shelter to be in a situation like this. This is Gary Tuckman, CNN Live, Boca Raton, Florida.
One of the most common descriptions that we're hearing from that area is it sounds like a freight train, those amazingly high winds as they rip through South Florida. With more on that is our senior meteorologist, Valerie Voss. Val?
Kathy, we have been monitoring weather observations out of southern Florida. And we should tell you that Fort Lauderdale has not been sending them the last hour or so, nor has Homestead in the last couple of hours, and you can see the obvious reason. The eye of the storm passing about 25 miles south of downtown Miami, just about the Homestead, Kendall area, producing wind gusts of 168 miles an hour at Coral Gables, the National Hurricane Center. At Miami Airport, the winds have gusted as high as 115 miles an hour with this storm, and we have not seen any weakening of the system. While we think some radar sites are not operating over South Florida, and consequently it appears that there is some weakening, there is not. Winds are still sustained with the system at the interior of 140 miles an hour. Hurricane force winds stretch as much as 45 miles out from the center all the way around, so that is why you're getting these reports from Boca Raton. We take a look at the system in the larger perspective, and you see it move onshore across Dade County. It will continue to move generally on a due westward course, and as it does, it will bring a storm surge as well to the extreme southwestern coast of Florida. There are storm surges expected in the 7 to 12 foot range for the southeast and also southwest coast of Florida. As the system moves that way, of course, you get the southern end of the system around the westerly winds that will be producing that storm surge. As it moves out into the Gulf of Mexico, it is too soon to tell exactly what will happen, but we don't expect too much weakening with the system over extreme southern Florida because it's a swampy region. It's very warm and moist. It'll get out into the Gulf very quickly. And in fact, Cancun, the northeast coast of Mexico, has already issued an alert watching this system. We'll have more a little bit later on. Right now, the news continues with Ralph Winge and Kathy Marshall.
Thank you, Valerie, and I can't help but think this morning of those folks who planned a late summer vacation to Florida and what they must be going through.
You're right. And of course, we're going to continue to follow the storm. There are other stories making news this morning, and we will cover those too when we come back.
Kenny Trainer up early, up all night, as a matter of fact, with the latest on Andrew.
Yes, the latest on Andrew is it is right on top of Homestead, or about 25 miles to the south-southeast of Miami. We are still going to call it Hurricane Andrew until we have different information, with highest winds of 140 miles an hour. Those of you who have the hurricane tracking charts, we will have one more update for you, but for all intents and purposes, you might as well put it to the side.
It's come ashore.
Because it's come ashore. It's considered on land now. It will continue to deteriorate, but it will be a major rainmaker, and that's probably what we're going to be facing throughout the morning. Heavy bands of showers will be moving in from the sea, will cut across the area. As you pointed out, there is a tornado watch in effect until 11 o'clock. It includes Brevard, Indian River, Osceola County, Polk County, and all areas south of us. And that just means that the effects of this is going to spawn some major activity. We also have some rainfall amounts, and we also have this is a major influence on our area because the groundwater levels are so high. The land is saturated with water right now, so we could expect up to 3 inches of rain here in the Central Florida area. As you move down to around the Lake Wales area, anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of rain, and that's all the way down to Lake Okeechobee. Down near the Glades, though, it's going to be 6 to 12 inches. In addition to that, we're going to have some rough seas today, so you're going to expect some storm surges along the East Coast, anywhere from 2 to 4 feet from Merritt Island all the way down to Vero Beach. Beach. From Vero Beach south, it's going to be 4 to 8 feet, and then as you get closer to the Miami area, it goes on up to 12 feet. In fact, they are expecting a storm surge of anywhere from 12 to 13 feet in the Biscayne Bay area. I want to show you what this looks like on the radar. We are using the radar out of Miami, and you will see the turning and twisting of the storm, and that will be our AccuWeather radar. You can see the storms turning and twisting as it moves into the Miami area. It is right on top of them right now. So for all intents and purposes, it has had landfall. If you are tracking the storm, this is probably going to be the last coordinates that we give, because it's 25.5 north, 80.6 west, moving towards the west at 18 miles an hour with winds up to 140 miles an hour. At the hurricane center, they clocked a wind gust at 164 miles an hour. This is 25 miles to the south-southwest of Miami. It's right on top of Homestead. It is now 85 miles east-southeast of the Naples area. And here's just another look at the storm, and you can see the influence of the storm is now reaching on up into central Florida. As you leave the Orlando area and go south, the influence of the storm is greater. It is going to be a rather cloudy, blustery, possibly rainy afternoon, but I do see some things improving by this evening. I'll show you some current conditions and things that are going on outside. The temperature in Orlando as of about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock this morning was right at 79, 80 degrees. Daytona Beach at 82 and Melbourne at 82 degrees. Some other temperatures and conditions in and around Central Florida. Over on the coast, the temperature is expected to reach 88 today. Now, here's the problem. Seas 10 to 15 feet, and the surf is going to be 4 to 6 feet. I wonder who's going to be noting that. Here's the forecast for Orlando and Central Florida. Forecast calls for skies mixed with clouds and sun breaking through this afternoon possibly. High 90, 76 low, chance of rain 80%. The 5-day forecast just says it's going to be a bit cloudy today. The sun will break through this afternoon, and temperatures will be back to normal by tomorrow.
How good of a chance when we get over to the Gulf side, if it does make it that far, of rekindling and starting all over again?
The one thing a hurricane wants is 80-degree plus water. That is the Gulf of Mexico. What we expect it to do is to possibly regain some strength and then possibly take aim at the west coast of Louisiana. There it will be mostly a tropical storm for a while. What it does there, anything can happen. Simply because it has all the ingredients it needs to rekindle.
All right, stay tuned. Of course, we have crews stationed at several areas throughout the storm. Ross Cavett has been weathering the storm in South Florida in Pompano.
That's north of Miami, and traditionally the north side of the storm considered the worst. Ross, how is it now?
Well, we've been watching as the eye of the hurricane moves through lower Dade County and thinking, hey, things are bound to get better here, right? Well, they haven't yet. The winds have certainly not died down in the past few minutes. In fact, we keep getting those gusts that seem to be about 80 miles an hour. I can't say for sure. In fact, we keep losing our communications with the Hurricane Center, and the radars keep going out. But from what we can determine up here in North Broward County, we're getting those 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts and sustained winds about 40 miles an hour. Most areas without power and a lot of trees now blocking roadways here. Your typical hurricane scenario. It's going to take quite a while to clean up for this once this is over. And we're told there is a second surge coming on shore in this area that will be affecting our weather throughout the next several hours. Then we're told perhaps by this afternoon, sunshine here in our area. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Right now we're weathering it pretty well. The storm shelter where the 800 people are behind us here doing pretty well. No structural damage or anything like that. In fact, power is still on in this neighborhood, but this neighborhood only. So we're weathering it right now, just surviving the wind. Right now, back to you.
Ross, in talking to the people that have left their homes, are they concerned about possible looting down the road or anything like that?
Yeah, that's always a concern. A lot of people expressed that even before the hurricane hit. Where are the police? And in fact, Pompano Beach Police Department was out in force last night, and only until early this morning did they call all the officers in. And once this passes and winds get below 60 miles an hour, those officers who are standing by at fire stations across the city, once the winds get below 60 miles an hour again, they will go back out on patrol to make sure there is no looting. And that's pretty much the case all up and down the coast.
Thank you, Ross Cavett, reporting live from Pompano Beach. We've just been told that the Florida Turnpike, back to normal. However, people stopping wherever they could to sleep. That included rest stops and, of course, the service plazas, and that has caused some problems there as well. So,
and we'll be having a traffic
anywhere.
report a little later this morning. We'll check in with the colonel, find out what effect any of this is having on traffic this morning here in Orlando.
Daybreak time is what now, 6:20?
And yesterday was a traffic nightmare on the northbound roads leading to Central Florida. We'll be back with a live report from one of the shelters. Jane Wattrell will be reporting live. We'll be right back.
People have fled from South Florida to escape the pounding blows of Hurricane Andrew.
Many are staying at shelters here in Orlando. Jane Wattrell is live at Colonial High School this morning. Jane, what can you tell us? How many people there?
There are 1,100 people here, and I have to add a slight correction. We are at Dr. Phillips High School. 1,100 people have evacuated from the west coast of Florida, from the Keys, and from southern Florida. They're with us today. They're anxious. It's been very quiet here this morning. I think people are deep in their thoughts. They're very concerned about what they left behind. Let's talk to a couple of them right now. This woman and her child came in from Fort Myers. Your name, ma'am?
Bonnie Kraszewski. I came from Fort Myers Beach. They told us to evacuate because we live in a mobile home park, so they told us to go ahead and leave. So we just packed up as much as we could and we left.
Did you try to secure your residence at all?
We put everything we could up on blocks and turn the electric off as best we could. I mean, they didn't give us much time. They said, you know, just get out as soon as you can.
Boy, what a harrowing experience. So over here is a young man who's from Homestead, and of course that is where the hurricane is passing over as we speak. Your name?
Andrew.
That is a bit ironic this morning. Tell me your story. How long did it take you to get from Homestead up here to Dr. Phillips High School?
Well, it took us 5 hours to get to Fort Pierce, which usually takes an hour and a half, and then it took us another 3 hours to get here, so altogether it's about 8 hours.
What prompted your decision to leave? I know a lot of people stayed behind, but what prompted your family's decision to leave?
Well, the Homestead Air Force Base, which is 1 mile away from where I live, was ordered to leave at 6:30 this morning. They were telling everybody to get out, so we're right there, you know, we're in the flood zone, so we have to get out to, we're east of US 1.
I'm sure watching the reports this morning, you're glad you made that decision. What are your family's thoughts right now as to what you left behind?
Well, we still have a house when we get back, and if we do, what's going to be left and how much damage.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have some folks here from the Key Biscayne area. Buenos dias, senora. Okay, you can speak in English for us. Can you tell us your story this morning? How long did it take you to get up here? When did you get to Dr. Phillips last night?
7 hours, more or less. I come from Fort Lauderdale, see? And we put 7 hours because the route was crowded. A lot of people was in the road, see?
I know you've been sitting here quietly this morning watching our news. What are your thoughts right now? What did you leave behind?
But I have nephews, daughters, and everything over there, see? And a lot of family was over there, see?
Naturally, I'm sure they're in your thoughts right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they are. I want to say one very important, the organization that this is incredible. I have to thank you to all this, okay, because it's wonderful, and the discipline and everything is wonderful, okay?
Well, thank you. We're just trying to do our public service and keep everybody informed. As you can see, people are very quiet, very patient. It's been a very difficult morning for them because as we speak right now, their homes are being battered by the storm. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Jane. Reporting live from Dr. Phillips High School. At least they made the trip up here and they're safe and sound here in Orlando.
And you know they want as much information as possible.
All right, well, we have Steve Jervey in Coral Gables. He was at the National Hurricane Center right in the area where the eye of this storm passed. He has moved from the Hurricane Center to a hotel nearby.
Steve, you're our eyes and ears down there this morning. Tell us the latest. What do you see out that window?
Well, all in all, I think I'd rather be in the studio doing Pet of the Week, but I have to live with what we had to go through here tonight. We got back to the hotel about midnight and got a couple hours of sleep. At about 3:30, it was just impossible to sleep with the roar of the storm outside and the banging that goes on inside a hotel like this. We took winds at over 160 miles an hour just next door, so I guess we could safely say that we took those winds. Outside, we have palm tree-lined street, and those trees were bending over, and a lot of the palm fronds were just ripped from those trees. A lot of plants that you see that are involved in things like landscaping around the hotel were just torn. Part of the roof has been blown off on this particular hotel. There's a lot of leaking going on here because a lot of the windows, the big glass windows that people have to look out of their rooms have been smashed in on a certain side of the building, and you can hear that when you walk by those windows. But all in all, about what you'd expect with a hurricane, and we've all seen pictures from a hurricane, but until you've actually been in one, and you've actually heard the sounds and heard that wind and felt the kind of scared, lonely feeling you get with a storm like this, you really don't, you can't imagine what it's like.
Well, Steve, you obviously still have your sense of humor, though. I'm just curious, were there any times that you personally felt that you were in danger, that something really, was about to happen?
There were several times when we were in the upper room. We're staying on the 3rd floor here. Apparently, we lost a door on the roof, and that was causing some pressure changes through the building itself. So some ceiling tiles were popping out, and we also lost quite a few windows in the restaurant area here, but those have been all taped up. We did get some pictures, so we can show you a little bit later what we were experiencing. So perhaps any of the danger that we experienced, we probably exposed ourselves to, and trying to bring back some nice video pictures for you later on.
All right, just make sure you're careful out there.
All right.
We'll check back with Steve a little bit later. 6:27 right now. We also have live crews in Pompano Beach and in Brevard County. We'll have live reports coming up.
As well as Sanibel Island. Also, Danny Trainer joins us with the latest on Hurricane Andrew and what it's doing to Florida. Next on Daybreak. Stay with us.
We've now established contact with Miami again, and we're going to be getting our first live report from NBC correspondent Ralph Penza in just a few moments. Our own reporters have been in the South Florida area throughout this morning via the telephone, but we're hoping to bring you some live pictures of what's actually happening in the Miami area as the eye of Hurricane Andrew passes over.
Yeah, Bruce Hall has been checking out the situation, and let's go to his report right now.
It is still raining and the wind is blowing here in Miami this morning, but Hurricane Andrew has come ashore. It came ashore, the eye came ashore south of Miami, which was a break for Miami where the wind was only about 80 to 90 miles an hour. However, south of Miami in Coral Gables, they were hit very hard. Winds reported to be 150 miles an hour. There is believed to be extensive damage at a number of buildings in Coral Gables. The storm of Hurricane Andrew is now moved across the southern part of Florida, where it was known as the big one, the one they were worried about. People were scared because they had been anticipating that this would be the biggest storm since 1965, when Hurricane Betsy came through Miami. The other big storm was in the Keys back in the 30s, which is one of the most fierce storms ever to come through the United States. Now, they're trying to come out, trying to take a look at the situation this morning. There does appear to be damage in Miami. There appears to be extensive damage in Coral Gables. The question is, how much damage? That is something that is still not known, and it will be several hours until we have daylight and people can get around to inspect the buildings. This is Bruce Hall reporting live from Miami.
Okay, that's actually our first visual contact with a reporter down that way, but our own have been monitoring the situation as well.
And we have to imagine that because they were able to get those pictures, that in other areas where they were impeded, it's just worse.
That's right.
We have several crews spread out throughout the state to bring you complete coverage of Hurricane Andrew. Let's go now to Dave McDaniel, live in Fort Lauderdale on the telephone. Dave, any substantial changes from last we spoke?
Well, Greg, actually, we're getting some moments now when it seems like maybe the storm is lessening just a bit. And of course, as soon as I say that, the wind and rain starts hitting me in the face again. We're on the back of the high school here, one of the evacuation centers, where we can actually be shielded by the building a little bit and get a good view of exactly what is going on. There's been a lot of water in the Fort Lauderdale area, a lot of wind. It didn't rain a whole lot at the beginning of the storm, but as it moved on land, it started raining much harder, and we are seeing some low-lying flooding in the area. We're not hearing of anybody who was hurt. The evacuees here, of course, okay. We'll have to venture out once the storm moves through a little farther and we can get to our vehicles and see how the people who said that they weren't worried about the storm, that they were going to ride it out, how they made out in the storm.
Dave, does it seem at all, even the least bit, as though this is subsiding as it passes over you?
It does seem like it is a little bit, Claire, and again, because the storm passed south of Miami, the strongest winds seem to be between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. We might be just a little north of where the most serious winds came about. At the time, we thought, at the storm's worst, we thought we had sustained winds of maybe 60 to 70 miles an hour with gusts up to around 80 or so. At the Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, they seem to have got it the worst. They seem to have wind gusts there over 160 miles an hour and sustained winds at 130 or 140. We are hearing reports of broken windows there, some ceiling tiles that have fallen, and really their work isn't doing, they're not able to do much of their work, I should say. Weather radio here, I've been monitoring it most of the morning, but in the last 45 minutes, weather radio has been silent, so I don't know if the tower that is putting out weather radio in South Florida has gone down or what. Some of the TV stations have been on and off the air depending on how their equipment has worked. But weather radio right now is kind of eerily quiet, and it's not very comforting when you tune in to see what's going on to have that be absolutely silent.
Dave, you probably heard that the Weather Center down that way is off the air, so that may be part of the reason you're not hearing anything on your weather radio.
Yeah, they took a pretty good shot.
Yeah, I understand that the Hurricane Center, really the nerve center for following these storms, where we depend on for information, they are off the air. They are apparently communicating by telephone with some of the local Miami TV stations, trying to get the word out to people. But the word is that we really won't know how bad the storm is until the sun comes up, and that's going to be another hour or so.
Okay, Dave, thank you very much. Dave McDaniel, live in the Fort Lauderdale area. It would seem, though, that no one is getting ready to leave shelter yet. That storm is still passing through, even though he said it seems to be decreasing a bit, the wind.
Yeah, it's comforting to know when you talk about Dave and Bob and Stephen Stock, who is in Naples, these people who have been at the shelters, and Lisa Myers as well, when you see that they are packed, it gives you a good idea that people are listening to officials. Yeah. And
everyone took it seriously.
That's what you want to see. You want people to listen to officials because, heck, that's their job, and a lot of people are just too stubborn.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to try to check in with Stephen Stock in a little while. He's in Naples,
right,
as we said.
And of course, the storm cruising around the coast and heading that way, so we'll check in with him in just a few minutes.
Okay, let's go to weather now. Jim Clark.
Well, thanks. We're looking at a series of satellite pictures that show the movement of the storm. The storm may be wobbling a little bit to the north of due west, but generally the westerly track at about 18 miles per hour continues. Now, I can go from this series of satellite pictures. You can see how the storm seems to be expanding a little bit at the present time. It was strengthening for the few hours before it made landfall. It started to strengthen. I'm sure that it is weakening now a little bit as it moves on shore and across the southern tip of Florida. The exact location is better given by this series of radar images, which I've been trying to update. Now, the Miami radar itself is down. This is a composite of the Key West and the West Palm Beach radar, still showing us a very good picture. You can see the eye move on shore, moving across most of Dade County at the present time, soon to enter northern Monroe County and perhaps southern portions of Collier County. Now, southwest Collier County is a very great resort area, Marco Island, Naples area, and that is going to be hard hit possibly in about an hour or two. They'll start to feel the brunt of this storm. If it moves out to their south, they could also see some storm surge problems there as the winds will come up out of the south as the eye moves by and cause some damage there. Again, for our own area, though, not too much to worry about. Some passing showers today, breezy at times, 88 degrees the high temperature, the rain chance around 50 to 60%. Just there is a tornado watch in effect for Brevard, Osceola, and Indian River counties today. And overall, we're going to fare very nicely here in Central Florida. Claire, Greg?
One lucky thing for all of us, that's for sure. And we will host our guests from South Florida and hope that they don't mind hanging around. We're going to take good care of you.
We're going to go to a break now. We'll be back in just a minute with more coverage of Hurricane Andrew.
Welcome back, Central Florida. It is 6:40 this morning, and the eye of the storm is over Miami and moving to the west now. These are pictures coming in from just an hour or so ago. You can see this is one powerful storm. The wind blowing sustained at 130 miles an hour in some areas. Folks all over Miami and the Fort Lauderdale area off the street seeking safe haven, safe shelter from this brutal, powerful hurricane, the worst to hit the South Florida area, really the entire state of Florida in decades.
Just where Hurricane Andrew will go next and how strong it will stay are all questions that have every Florida resident keeping a close watch. That is the case in Naples, where 2 News reporter Stephen Stock joins us live on the telephone with some preparations there. Good morning, Steve.
Hi, Greg. I am actually outside in Naples, and if you can hear in the background, the wind is actually picking up rather substantially. In fact, the local emergency folks are telling everybody to get off the streets within the next half hour. A couple of cars going by. Looks like they're kind of in a hurry to get off the streets, as emergency workers have said that the winds are expected here in full force in the next hour to 2 hours. Now, that doesn't mean that the eye will pass here for some time. It has started to rain again rather hard. In fact, the rain is going sideways. The wind's blowing so hard. It's about 25 miles an hour, the officials tell me, but the burst is going a little bit faster than that. We're expecting
the winds to sustained winds about 75 to 85 miles an hour where I am in Naples. The eye is expected to pass right over Everglades City unless the storm changes path, and right now that is a big if, at least for the local folks here. They're afraid that some of the forecasts are calling for the storm to actually start on a northwesterly direction, which may mean that Naples could see the eye pass over it. I was hearing Dave McDaniel from Fort Lauderdale say that the strongest winds seem to be passing just north of Miami, and that appears to be what's going to happen here, especially over Marco Island, which is just south of where we're standing. We're going to keep an eye on it, try to get some pictures for you, and when it gets a little bad, we may have to seek shelter ourselves.
Jim concurs that it will be slightly northwest, but I'm not sure you'll actually see the eye there, Steve, and he's still kind of monitoring things, checking it out for you.
Maybe finding yourself on a trip north today.
Yeah, exactly. We'll keep an eye on it and check in with you later on this morning.
Okay, stay safe.
Stephen Stock reporting live from near or just outside Naples on the Gulf Coast.
Well, you know, St. Lucie County is the northernmost county that has been evacuated because of the storm. 2 News' Elaine Hines spent the night on the Treasure Coast. She shows us what that night was like.
Blue and red lights flashing against the darkening skies. The causeway is closed. Hutchinson Island is ordered evacuated.
Waiting it out, seeing how bad we're going to get it. Look.
While most people heed the danger warning and leave, others deliberately try to circumvent authority. They're self-proclaimed storm chasers, college students traveling hundreds of miles to feel the ferocious power of nature in the surge of the storm.
It's this nature thing, you know, the nature's dominating here, you know, and you just have to like it.
It's the thrill, I guess, just the curiosity of, you know, what could happen down here. And Hugo was supposed to miss us if Bearden missed us, so, you know, I had something to do.
While some thrill seekers are drawn to natural disasters waiting to happen, others are diehards who thought long and hard and decided to stick it out.
Just kind of mulling it over and watching the statistics and so forth, and that's why we decided to stay.
For the convenience of the ones who stay on after an evacuation, there's very little left out here, except a rare shop boarded up but open for business just a couple blocks from the beach.
In a lot of beach areas that aren't necessarily threatened by the direct impact of the storm, like here on Vero Beach, we're seeing a lot of people out here saying they want to feel the power of the wind. But meteorologists warn this is risky business, as swells from the hurricane can hit at any time and can hit hard. Elaine Hines, 2 News.
In just a couple of minutes, we're going to check back in with Bob Keeling, who is down in the Fort Lauderdale area. We'll see how the situation is down there.
Okay, and also when we come back, we will show you the Central Florida traffic picture. Lots of folks coming up from South Florida, and of course, many of you heading for work today. You need to know how things are out on the road. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. It's 6:47. Let's check in again with Alan Edwards this morning, see how things are moving on area roads.
Well, good morning, Claire. Up in the area of I-4 and the Kennedy Overpass, kind of another normal morning in paradise. Traffic is heavy, but it is moving up to speed. The West Coast, very heavy, northbound 75, 17, and 41, all of them coming out of the Fort Myers area as people evacuate and head up north. We'll watch those roads for you all morning long. The B-line also pretty steady flow of traffic around the 520 toll booth and into the airport area, and you will find yourself some heavy traffic eastbound on I-4 coming out of Tampa. Reporting live, I'm Alan Edwards, Metro Traffic Control for Florida's 2 News Sunrise.
Thanks a lot, Alan. Well, this should be the first day of school for many Central Florida students, but Andrew will give some at least one more day of vacation. Many area schools are closed so they can serve as evacuation centers for South Floridians fleeing the storm. Here's the list of schools closed this morning. Osceola Public Schools, Polk County Public Schools, Marion County Public Schools, also public schools in Indian River County, and Grace Episcopal Private School, St. John's Lutheran, Blessed Trinity Private School, Brevard County Public Schools, Brevard Achievement Center, the Child Care Association of Brevard County, Titusville Christian School, Ashwood Play School and Nursery, Phillips Junior College in Melbourne, Melbourne Central Catholic High, St. Mary's School in Rockledge, and in Palm Bay, Victory Christian Academy. The Merritt Island Christian School and Daycare is closed. Our Savior Catholic Church, Canaveral Learning Center, and Trinity Presbyterian Children's Center.
That's a mouthful for you, huh?
Yes, indeed. Good information for those people to have.
That's
Not
right.
good for me to have to read it.
Jim Clark is tracking Andrew for us as it passes across the South Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. We'll have the very latest coming up in just a moment.
7 on a Monday morning, August 24th.
Jim Clark is standing by with the very latest on Hurricane Andrew.
Well, Andrew is well over the southern portions of Florida now. It's about halfway across the state, in fact. We're looking at the latest coordinates at 25.5 north, 80.6 west. Now, those are slightly dated. The storm continues to move towards the west. Those coordinates at about 6 a.m. Moving to the west at 18 miles per hour, maybe accelerating a little bit and maybe traveling slightly north of due west. The latest maximum sustained winds were at 140 miles per hour. It could be a little while before we get another update depending on how the National Hurricane Center has fared. We do have the eye of the storm moving on shore in a series of radar images which we can show you a little bit later. We're looking at pretty good weather across central Florida. There's the eye, and you can see it's about halfway across the southern tip of the state right now. Naples area, Marco Island, they have something to look forward to. Okay. That's the way it's shaping up now. Claire, Greg?
All right, in just a couple of minutes after this break, we're going to come back and get the latest on traffic around the area. Also, another live report from the Fort Lauderdale area.
And these are some of the pictures coming out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale right now. Fierce rain and wind just bombarding that area. We'll have live reports coming back. Stay tuned. Just a few minutes before 7 o'clock this morning, and we're waking up to a nice calm Central Florida day, but in South Florida, things are really disaster-like. Hurricane Andrew is blowing through there right now.
Yeah, Bob Keeling is down in the Fort Lauderdale area. Bob, I understand what the storm is picking up a bit?
Yeah, that's right, Greg. As Dave McDaniel reported a while ago, it seemed to have died down, but all of a sudden maybe we've gotten another bit of fury. I'm sitting in a large auditorium hearing the wind whip against the ceiling, but thank goodness we're in a secure building. There are also some initial reports starting to trickle in. Dade County Civil Preparedness folks saying at this point, and we need to stress at this point, it appears that they've, in their words, lucked out, saying that initial damage reports are that it appears Broward County is looking like there is light damage at this point. Here at the high school, Boyd Anderson High School, one local television station in Miami is reporting that the situation isn't quite so good in Dade County. Apparently several injuries reported, and we're told, unconfirmed, that perhaps police officers have been hurt in some type of a mishap in a parking garage. But again, that information coming out sketchy at this point. But we need to stress here, at least in Broward County, that appears that there is some good news, that the damage appears to be light. Now, here at the high school, there are some 3,200 evacuees, some starting to stir as it begins to get light outside. People thankful that they've made it through the night and the roof is still over their heads, and hopeful that they'll be returning home fairly soon.
All right, Bob, thanks a lot. We'll check back with you later on in the day. We were, of course, rolling some pictures during that report from Bob that showed it was kind of calm, and we understand that may have been because those pictures were taken when the eye passed over and then before the storm picked up, as Bob described.
Or Jim says it may have actually been because we were in between squalls, from one squall to another throughout the storm. We'll have Jim's update in just a moment. But first, Alan Edwards takes one more look at traffic this morning in Central Florida area.
Good morning, Claire. Everything on I-4 is still pretty heavy right now. It's starting to slow between Maitland and the Kennedy Overpass area. Got reports that the B line is pretty heavy in the westbound direction at 520 and into the airport area. Right now, southbound Kirkman is looking good. On the Turnpike, the Turkey Lake rest stop, very, very busy. People trying to get gas, and also a lot of people sleeping in their car there as they couldn't find a motel or hotel room last night. Reporting live, I'm Alan Edwards, Metro Traffic Control for 2 News Sunrise.
We were all a little optimistic hearing Bob Keeling report that maybe damage won't be as bad as we had anticipated. However, Jim points out we have not heard from the folks along the coast, and that's really the key.
Well, hopefully there aren't any folks along the coast. And also, Bob was located about 50 miles north of where the eye made landfall. I think in Biscayne Bay, Miami area, you can see the eye coming right through Biscayne Bay. And also Coral Gables, located about 25 miles south of downtown Miami, they reported a wind gust of 165 miles per hour. Now, with that kind of a gust along the coast and in the Cape Coral Coral Gables area, you can expect a lot of very extensive damage. And again, even in Fort Lauderdale, out on the beach, I imagine we'll see a lot of flood damage. We have no reports of the storm surge yet, because hopefully there was nobody there, but when they go back in to assess the damage. And you can see the storm moving to the west. It looks like it's going to go just to the south of Marco Island and Naples, where it could do a good bit of damage there as well. For our area, though, nothing to worry about. Watch out for some rain, some breezy conditions sometimes during the day, but nothing bad.
Some influence.
We are going to...
Tornadoes, possibly, but not as far north as we are.
Probably not. There's a slight chance in Osceola County.
Okay, we're going to keep you up to date on Andrew throughout the morning. Thanks for staying with us.
Bye-bye.